Every pantheon has a god who breaks things, and without them, the entire cosmos would collapse into perfect, sterile order. Think about the architecture of most divine systems. Ra sails his sunboat across the sky every single day, never deviating, never late. Zeus enforces oaths with absolute authority. Break your word and you're dust. The Norns sit at the base of Yggdrasil, weaving fate exactly as it should be, thread by predetermined thread. These are gods of structure, gods of maintenance. And they're essential, obviously. Without them you get primordial soup, you get the roar howling void before creation. But here's what nobody tells you about perfect order. It's death by another name. When every outcome is predetermined, when every ritual plays out exactly as written, when nothing can shift or adapt or surprise you, that's not cosmic harmony. That's rigor mortis. Tricksters are the immune system of mythology. They're not villains screwing things up for fun, though they definitely have fun doing it. They're diagnostic tools. They detect when the divine machine has gotten too rigid, too convinced of its own rightness, too removed from the messy reality of lived experience. And then they introduce the chaos that keeps everything alive. The lie that reveals a deeper truth. The theft that redistributes frozen power. The joke that shatters a calcified way of seeing. Without them, the gods would build a perfect crystalline prison and call it paradise. Norse mythology knows something we've forgotten. Ragnarok isn't the tragedy. It's the point. The cosmos has to burn so something new can grow. And Loki? He's not the villain of that story, he's the match. Forget Marvel for a second. Forget the tortured adopted prince energy. The actual Loki, the one the Vikings knew, killed Balder. The shining god. The beloved one. He orchestrated his death with mistletoe and manipulation. And yeah, that triggered the end of everything. But here's what matters. He's not evil for doing it. He's the only god honest enough to do what the narrative demanded. Someone had to break the world. Someone had to be willing to burn it all down. The other gods wanted permanence, wanted their golden halls to last forever. Loki understood that nothing gold can stay. So they punished him. And the punishment tells you everything. They bound him with the entrails of his own son. Tied him to a rock. Set a serpent above his face to drip venom on him for eternity. His wife holds a bowl to catch the poison, but when she has to empty it, the venom burns him and his thrashing causes earthquakes. That's what the gods do to him for being what they needed him to be. And when he finally breaks free? When he leads the giants against Asgard at Ragnarok? He's not betraying anyone. He's completing the cycle. He's the fire that burns the world clean. The gods built a beautiful lie. Loki told the truth. And the truth always wins in the end. Anansi is a spider. And he owns every story ever told. He bought them. Literally walked up to Niamh, the sky god, and said, I want all the world's stories. What's your price? Niamh laughed. Because Anansi was small, and Niamh had seen kingdoms fall trying to pay what he asked. But Anansi didn't bring gold or armies. He brought cunning. He trapped what couldn't be trapped. He humiliated what couldn't be humiliated. And Niamh had no choice but to hand over the stories. That's the origin. But here's why it matters. When enslaved West Africans were forced across the Middle Passage, Anansi came with them. His tale survived because people recognized what he was, the small thing that outsmarts the powerful thing. Every single story teaches the same lesson. The system is rigged. The deck is stacked. The powerful will always have more. But intelligence and audacity can break it. And here's the uncomfortable part. Anansi isn't a hero. Not by any Western metric. He's selfish. He lies constantly. He'll abandon his own wife and children the second it benefits him. He's not virtuous. He's not noble. But he wins. And in a world built to crush you, in a reality designed to keep you small and silent and erased, winning matters. Anansi doesn't teach you to be good. He teaches you to survive. And sometimes, that's the more sacred thing. Coyote shows up in dozens of indigenous North American traditions, and here's the thing, he's always the same. Hungry, horny, overconfident to the point of delusion, and absolutely, cosmically essential. He steals fire for humans because he's cold and figures they might share. He scatters the stars across the sky because he opened a bag he wasn't supposed to touch. He creates death itself, sometimes on purpose, more often because he got bored and wondered what would happen if he just didn't follow the rules. The desert made him, and it shows. Because the desert doesn't reward careful planning. It doesn't care about your 5U strategy or your risk assessment. It rewards adaptability. The ability to pivot when the waterhole dries up, when the temperature drops 40 degrees at sunset, when everything you thought you knew stops working. Coyote is adaptation incarnate. He's the god you get when survival means being willing to look absolutely stupid, fail so loudly the whole canyon hears it, and then try again tomorrow with a completely different terrible plan. He doesn't win because he's clever. He wins because he refuses to quit, and because he's not too proud to scavenge, steal, or seduce his way to the next meal. In a landscape that kills the rigid and the proud, Coyote's chaos isn't a bug. It's the feature that keeps the world alive. Elegba stands at the crossroads. And here's the thing that makes him different from every other trickster we've talked about. He's not just chaos for chaos's sake. His cosmic authority. In Yoruba tradition, every single prayer you send up, it goes through Elegba first. Every offering, every plea to Augon, to Oshan, to gods far more powerful than he is. They don't hear you unless Elegba decides to let your message through. He's the gatekeeper, the threshold, the hinge the whole spiritual world turns on. And he's watching to see if you'll honor that, if you'll pay attention to the moment before the moment. Because that's where he lives. Most people rush past the threshold. Elegba makes you stop. His tricks aren't pranks. They're tests. There's this story about two friends who were inseparable, devoted, until Elegba walked between them wearing a hat that was red on one side and black on the other. One friend swore the stranger's hat was red. The other swore it was black. They fought. Bitterly. Completely missed that they were both right. Elegba forced them to see that perspective isn't optional. It's everything. You don't control Elegba. You can't manipulate him or skip him or sweet talk your way around the crossroads. You negotiate. And that negotiation, that moment where you acknowledge the threshold and offer respect, that's the spiritual work. Elegba doesn't decide your fate because he's cruel. He decides it because someone has to make sure you're awake enough to walk the path at all. We live in a world obsessed with optimization. Productivity hacks. 5U plans. Morning routines that start at 4:47 a.m. because someone on the internet swears it changed their life. We've turned ourselves into perfect little machines, measuring every input and output, convinced that if we just follow the system hard enough, we'll finally arrive at whatever finish line we've been promised. And trickster gods? They think that's hilarious. They're not here to help you optimize. They're here to remind you that chaos isn't the enemy. It's the crack in the foundation that lets something new grow through. They're not telling you to blow up your life, quit your job, burn it all down. They're telling you to notice where you've gotten too rigid, too certain, too committed to the plan. Because the plan, honestly, was never going to survive contact with reality anyway. The trickster's gift is this: when everything falls apart, you're not broken. You're being restructured by forces smarter than your need for control. The next time everything falls apart around you, look for the gift hidden in the wreckage, because that's where the trickster's been working all along. Follow Blackfire Atelier. I'll see you in the shadows.